My name is Dave Tran, and this is LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have Dr. Dan Bay in Chicago, Illinois. He graduated from Life University in 2001, and Dr. Dan is the co-founder of Everest Coaching. Dr. Dan, welcome to LuxTV.
Hey, David. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, so let's get straight to it.
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in chiropractic?
I got lucky. I think like a lot of other people in the profession. I was hurt. I needed to get back to school. I was an undergrad in Boston University, and I was an athlete. I had everything going for me except the fact that I couldn't make my way onto the train to get to class.
Oh, wow.
And I met a chiropractor online at Starbucks because the caramel frappuccino is the only thing that made me happy at that moment. And he said, "Let me help you." I said, "Okay, what do I have to lose?" And then the ball started rolling from there.
Oh, awesome. And I know that you recently kind of spoke back in your hometown in Boston, and you kind of talked something about USP or VAP. Could you explain something about that?
Yeah, sure. USP stands for Unique Selling Proposition, and VAP stands for a Value Added Proposition. Now, these are terms that we use in business to describe like what's unique about what you have to offer and what's valuable about what you have to offer. And what I'm finding is that so we're in school, right? And then we start going through our board exam. We start learning about neuroanatomy and all that stuff. We learn philosophy if you went to the right school. And what happens is that the more we learn about our chosen profession, and the deeper we get into that, what actually happens is you start to lose touch with the perspective of your community. And I might ruffle some feathers when I say this because that's kind of what we do. But what happens is the really philosophically very aligned, our technique gurus, I think, are the worst at this because they're so into chiropractic, which is awesome. They're so into it, they totally lose the perspective of the patient. An example I want to give you is I went with my dad to a cardiologist, and he was the best of the best. I mean, he was the board of this. He was recommended by everyone. He's a chief surgeon. His resume goes on forever. And when we got in front of him, we had a lot of high expectations. But I'm telling you, this guy could not spit out a full sentence. All he could talk about is how great, about what he knew and how he knew it. And yeah, we were impressed with his resume, but he wasn't really speaking to us, So what happens is that, and I say this with a lot of caution, but I will say it anyway, is that chiropractic has become a very self-centered profession because we know what we do is so great, and it is. But what happens is we don't look at at chiropractic in the eyes of our patients, So what we don't want to see happen is when a new patient walks in the door, you don't do a cartwheel in there, give him a high pie, and say the power that made the body heals the body. Lay down. Let me adjust you and let your power run through your innate. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because what your patients or a general clueless person in your society is going to be like, WTF, man? Like, who is this guy? Because we're not speaking their language. Yeah. So, back to VAP and USP. A VAP is a value-added proposition. What is something that is valuable that you have to offer, right? That the person is willing to invest time, energy, and money with you for, okay? And making that transition or finding out what that value add is in the perspective of the patient is absolutely huge. So if it's okay, Dave, I'd like to give you an example.
Sure.
All right. So when I ask docs our docs, I said, what's your value added proposition? They would say something like, I am a corrective care doctor certified in XYZ technique with 13 years of experience that is certified in XYZ, and the list goes on, okay? Now, as a chiropractor, I would say, dude, that's very valuable because I know what that represents.
Yeah.
But I'm a chiropractor, you see? Now, if you said that to a general person in your community that was completely clueless, what would they hear? They would hear like a picture of like Homer Simpson, like duh, like that doesn't mean anything to them. So let's translate that value-added proposition into something that's a little bit more applicable to a person in the general community, okay? So a VAP of that would be, we train hard. We're always up to date on the latest in chiropractic to get you better, faster, quicker, so so that you can get out and do your job better or pick up your kids or whatever that might be. You see, it's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now we're actually talking to a general person in the community that is looking for you as an answer to their problems.
Yeah.
So I think for students, and I don't know, who's watching this, but I got to tell you, whether it be a student or a person in the profession, we can never ever lose touch of who we're speaking to. And yes, we speak to chiropractors a lot, and they buy what we sell because we're chiropractors, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're not making that transition into speaking to a person in the general population that is completely clueless about what we do.
Yeah, and that's huge because, a lot of times I'll go like to a seminar or, it's to some philosophy group and you get all spizzed out, talking all the bumper stickers and stuff like that too. But then I get kind of centered and grounded every time I try to talk to my sister or my mom or my dad, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Exactly.
So, and then the interesting point that came to mind whenever you were talking about the USP or the unique selling point was that, even in chiropractic school, I started chiropractic school and didn't even really know what chiropractic was about. You know, it was like, and like, imagine that being the public and trying to spew out all that. And I'm actually in the bubble. It wasn't until I think maybe like halfway through, or maybe halfway through the second try before I was like, oh, the nervous system. Okay, so which is crazy.
It is crazy, and that's the thing is that so you recognize that because in your point of your life, you're in that transition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause I know you're in school and you're out there, you're talking to sisters, but now when you get out into the public is when the shell shock happens.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, only people you talked to were people who knew chiropractic, right?
Yeah.
So early on, I think the solution to that is to constantly be speaking to people who have no idea about what you do.
Yeah.
And it really humbles you, and you have to dumb it down. I know for some docs out there, it's tough to even think about doing,
Yeah.
But, if you're going to you don't talk to a 4-year-old like you talk to a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the key to our inevitable success is to make sure that we're communicating at the level that they completely understand and see life in their eyes, not so much in your eyes.
Yeah. I know sometimes some people kind of freak out about scripts and stuff like that, but it seems to me that if you want to be an effective communicator, you kind of have to practice how to speak to people,
Yes.
So.
Well, can I say something about scripting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, I felt the same way. I never liked the idea of being scripted on anything because I thought it was fraudulent. I thought it was not authentic, But I got to tell you something. And I'm going to give you a music analogy, okay? If you listen to a very, very popular artist, and let's say it's like a Jimi Hendrix, right? And he's up there wailing on his guitar, spewing out all these incredible licks, you know what I mean? And he's at a level where, most of us have never even seen, but we know that sounds good, yes?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we don't know is that he is not improvising and putting his heart into a piece based off of just randomization. He has a very clear idea of where he is in that piece that he's playing. He knows exactly where the drums are. He knows what the chord changes are. He knows what the other accompanying guitars are doing. That way he can actually play in sync and complement the piece, So in terms of scripting, how I see it is that you need a fundamental blueprint, and that's where scripting comes in.
Yeah.
Assuming you know nothing. Now you take that script, you get it down, you essentially checklist it so you're covering all the bases, and then when you own it is when then you can start adding your own liberties.
Yeah.
Then you absolutely own it. So I'm glad you brought up the thing about scripting because yes, a lot of people are negative on it, but you got to start somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's get the fundamentals down.
I've also heard that you have people kind of record themselves and kind of have you got critique them. So what are some things that people kind of realize that they do after they record themselves?
Well, first of all, after they're done throwing up in the back of their throats, in recording, the hardest part of recording is hitting the record button.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, once you get that down, I would say the biggest thing that docs notice them doing is minimizing. So, like, even when you're speaking, we use words like kinda, maybe, sorta, sometimes,
Yeah.
in our general conversation, which is totally legit, right? But when you're speaking in front of a patient, you'll actually minimize their problem because you're afraid to confront them on it. So, for example, I listened to a tape of a doc doing a report of findings on a lower back, let's say, and he would say, you see this right here? This is kind of some degeneration. This is sort of a subluxation. It's not that bad, but we still got to get it corrected, right?
Yeah.
That is absolutely brutal. You know what I mean? Okay, how about this? John, this is a subluxation. This is a problem. This is putting a lot of pressure on the nerves that are going into your bowels, bladder, reproductive organs. We got to get it corrected.
Yeah.
Same thing, but I took out the minimizing words, and it has a much bigger impact.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
it sounds more confident, and that, more professional, like, what you're talking about, for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you got to deal in absolutes. You can't skirt around the idea
Yeah.
because it's already going to get watered down.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me when you had mentioned about actually hitting the record button. Like, I'm just old enough to remember what it feels like to come over to someone's house back in the day when you would have to leave a message on a tape recorder or
Right.
a message recorder, and like someone would play it and you're actually there with them. And I think to myself, man, do I really sound that way? And it's like
Yeah,
the most
yeah.
awkward feeling known to man.
It is, yeah. It takes practice listening to yourself or even seeing yourself on camera.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I know you've seen it because you've been doing this for a while.
I try not
but-
to watch it. I don't know. It's
Yeah, but in the first couple you saw, you were like, oh my God.
exactly.
My hair is all weird. But but the thing is that we need to get in touch with ourselves in terms of being objective about how we're coming across or how we're communicating. If we're afraid to look at ourselves objectively, we're lost.
Yep.
We'll never get it down.
And lastly, so what would be your greatest advice for chiropractic students?
I think my greatest advice would be is along the same terms of what we're talking about is, first of all, learn how to move a friggin' bone. I would say that's okay. I don't care if you know how to sell, ice to an Eskimo. If you don't know how to move a bone, and you call yourself a chiropractor, okay, that would be a crying shame. So I recommend all students go to clubs, get your hands on as many people as possible, bribe them. I used to bring cases of beer to parties and say, I want to adjust everyone at this party. And we used to have adjusting parties. We were under the influence, but that's another point, right? And the next biggest piece of advice would be absolutely, docs and students, learn the proper way to explain chiropractic to someone who has no idea what it is, and practice that. And if you have trouble with that, give us a call. That's what we specialize in. We specialize in how to take a person that knows nothing and concurrently sees and continues to see value in chiropractic in terms of what you have to offer for them. So that would be my two biggest pieces of advice: learn how to move a bone and learn how to speak the language in terms of the patients.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Dan, thank you so much for sharing with us today. If you want to get some more information or connect with Dr. Dan directly, check out the links below. Every week I'll be uploading another video with a leader in the profession. So be sure to share this with your friends, your classmates, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Dave Tran, and this was LuxTV, shedding and spreading light.